the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Let's begin it.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9. I've never seen such hideousness in all my life.
Listen to all this, sir.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Like a furry torpedo to the jugular. This is Honey Badger Radio. Radio with Buddy.
But the senator, while indoctrinated, could not explain his toxicity.
You should not listen to men's rights advocates if you want to know what they have to say.
Let's begin it.
Number ZZ9 plural Z alpha. Number ZZ9.
Second stage tanks now pressurized. Astronauts report it feels good. T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Hello and welcome to Technical Difficulties with the Badgers. And Hannah wrestles with the mute button. HBR Talk 234. Actually, HBR Talk is going to look at a discussion between feminists and anti-feminists. That's our title. And I'm your host, Hannah Wallen, here with Nonsense Annihilator Lauren B. to annihilate some serious nonsense. There's some nonsense coming up in this video tonight, guys. But first, we got to do what we got to do. As always, Honey Badger Radio dishes out a smorgasbord of thought-provoking discussions, and as experiences both recent and long past have demonstrated, the provoked thoughts are fighting back. They've made it clear that for people like us, relying on third-party payment platforms like Patreon to fund our work is treading on thin ice, or building our house in the path of a rapidly growing wildfire. In light of this, we strongly encourage our supporters to at least switch their support for us to feedthebadger.com, the most stable way to help us out. And if you want to tip us directly instead of relying on any social media platform's tip jar, the link for that is feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And as always, the same risk applies to our social media platforms, which is why you should further provoke the thought police by tracking our thought-provoking discussions on honeybadgerbrigade.com, where you can find your way to all of our content, as well as a link to feedthebadger.com in the drop-down menu at the top of the page. So, today we're going to start our journey through a 45-minute video that I couldn't get through the first 10 minutes of last night without some hard face palms. Guys, I couldn't head desk because I was at work. So, like, the client cannot see me doing that or hear me doing that. It's a bad example. Everybody gets frustrated. Gotta be careful about that. But the face palms were palming. We'll just say that. So I don't know how far we'll get through this today. My plan is this: we'll go through what we can today, and we're gonna do some more of this next week. And then if we don't get anywhere near through it, we've got more to go through, which I expect we will. We'll just sort of sandwich it in between other shows because we'll have other topics that we want to talk about. But we'll keep coming back to this until we get it done. There's a lot to slog through, and yes. Yeah. So this will be an interesting take. But one of the first things I noticed about it, right, was they've got feminists and they've got anti-feminists, but nobody seems to have invited anybody that identified themselves as an MRA. No men's rights activists. And it's not like they would have had to invite a dude. There are men's rights activists who are women in Australia. And I don't know if maybe, like Sydney Watson was in there. They didn't call her a men's rights activist because they're offended by the title. I mean, she's done some men's rights activism. Like, she's primarily an anti-feminist, but, like, they could say the same thing about Karen. Karen's an anti-feminist. I'm an anti-feminist, but I'm primarily a men's rights activist. Like, my anti-feminism is kind of a side issue, really, to that. Although it was what I got into first, because I thought feminism was stupid. But, and it is. Feminism is still cancer. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they didn't seem to want to balance any of this out with the discussion about how these issues affect both sexes, right? They didn't want to talk about how these issues affect men. And I think that is part of what impacted the conversation. So that's my little preface. I don't know. Have you seen much of this video already yet, Lauren?
I accidentally watched through the whole thing because I was watching it on 1.5 speed, right? Because I knew it was going to be bad. I was like, look, let me just at least get through the first few minutes like you did, so we're both at least up to speed, right? But it just kept going, and as I'm watching, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna pause that and just listen to the rest of this shit because I had so much to say. But by the time I looked up and realized they were actually at the end of it. So I in a way, I was thankful that it was over. But there's so much to talk about.
It is kind of fun to watch it on fast forward because they sound like angry chipmunks. Oh, jeez. And like, there are things I like about Sydney Watson's activism, but like I said, I'm not gonna call her an MRA for this conversation, just because like I said, she doesn't seem to identify as one, and I know she's not a fan of MGTOW. I know she's had some MGTOW. Most people don't understand men going their own way. They don't understand walking away from women, and they don't understand getting mad at women's behavior and staying mad, not forgetting about it in an hour like men do a lot. You get into an argument with a man and you get mad and he gets mad and you guys stay mad at each other. If he's your pal or if you're in a relationship, there's this pattern that men have had for a long time with women, where they don't do what women do when women get mad at each other. They don't make an enemy for life that they're going to undercut and do mean things to at every opportunity and nag every time they talk to her and all that. Like, you don't see that very often. You see most of the time a man has to be really fucking pissed before he does that, right?
Yeah.
So women have developed this expectation that all it takes for a man to forgive a woman is a little bit of time. And it doesn't matter what she did. It doesn't matter what he's experienced. It's, water under the bridge, right? So you got to forget and forgive. And, well, you don't necessarily have to forget. And even if you're not mad, even if you're not malicious toward her because of being mad or anything like that, you still have the right, every right, to remain cautious around women in general and around a woman in particular who has done something bad to you. And a lot of women don't understand that. A lot of women don't admit that to themselves. So when a guy has, there was one guy that I used to talk to on Reddit and a lot. He's one of the veterans of the movement. He's one of the early guys. His name on Reddit was Factory 2. And he really got a shit deal from the lady MRAs on Reddit. They asked him some questions, and he gave them some answers, and they didn't like the answers. And one of the things was they just presumed a lack of respect for women because he talked about being a man going his own way. Well, first of all, you don't have the right to presume respect for women. Just being a woman does not earn you anything. It shouldn't earn you anything. You're not special. Half the population are women. There's almost 4 billion, maybe more than 4 billion at this point, women in the world. And there are females in other species too. Every species that reproduces sexually has females, including rats and pigs. So I don't want to hear about how being female makes you special.
Right.
But in any case, this whole thing blew up. That's actually how Karen and Allison and I went from being 3 separate people having conversations with the men in the men's rights subreddit to the honey badgers. Because we ended up in that slap fight, and we were all pretty much in tandem in the way we were thinking about it and looking at it and everything. And men going their own way are, generally speaking, men who have had some very, very bad experiences with egregious behavior by women, or they've been made very aware of other people's bad experiences around them. I think the 7 Years in Hell guy I talk about, if he hadn't been married, if he hadn't had a set of female friends to help him out, he would not have relationships with any women after what his ex-wife did to him. He would never trust another woman again, ever. He can't work because he can't work with women that he doesn't already know. He doesn't trust them. He can't trust them. It's like somebody in a wheelchair can't walk. His ability to trust women has been broken, and his therapy has not figured out a way to fix that, because it's something that women did to him, not something that just broke on its own. And the guy that I was talking about in the subreddit, His reason for being a man going his own way was that he had faced 7 false rape allegations.
7.
7.
Holy shit.
7 different women. All right, so this is, and this is, you know, if any of them had been valid allegations, he would have been screwed. Like, but they weren't. Right? These were 7 women who just made allegations among his friends, or you know, went to authorities and were like, you know, this happened, and it didn't.
Was it like a coordinated attack against the guy?
No. Nope. He's a very charming guy, and he's a very handsome guy. And so getting dates was not hard for him. You know, like, women would hit on him. And so you have this situation where one of the things that happens with false allegations that people don't think about, a woman hits on a guy and he says, no, I'm not interested, or I'm with this other woman. He blows her off, turns her down. She gets mad and levels an allegation. And I know 2 guys that's happened to. And then another one that happens is, you know, a woman has a boyfriend, and she gets caught with a guy that she decided she had the hots for 5 minutes, you know, that wasn't the boyfriend, and suddenly there's a rape allegation. And I've been to court with a guy that like Mr. Three Hands, her reason for accusing him was because she didn't want her boyfriend to know that she was trying to cheat on him. And I say trying because, like, Mr. Three Hands did not actually do anything. Like, there was nothing that happened that could even have been remotely construed as sex. Like, she was being disloyal, and she tried everything to get there, and people saw it, and that's why she made the allegation. So sometimes that's the reason for a false allegation. There's actually a whole bunch of different reasons that they happen. You know, a woman's a little bit tipsy. She claims that she was too drunk to consent. Like, there's a huge difference between having a beer and feeling comfortable, and having 6 beers and feeling like you're trying to climb up the floor. You know, which the only time I've ever actually felt like I was trying to climb up the floor was actually after I fell off of a skateboard. That was a totally different story. There was no beer involved at all. So it wasn't fun. But yeah, you know, like, that would have been a no consent situation. But that's not the kind of things that happen. It's those other situations. 7 times. One guy, right? And we know, you know, it could have all been the same woman. I mean, like, I wouldn't do anything with a woman after she accused me the first time, and I don't think he would have either. But why wouldn't you be a MGTOW after that? Like, why would you ever trust a woman again?
Right.
It was, when is he supposed to stop trusting women? Is he supposed to wait until, like, after the 13th, so he has this nice baker's dozen of false allegations?
Right.
You know, is he supposed to have meet Cardi B and get robbed while he's passed out drunk? Like, is that when he's supposed to stop trusting women? Or maybe he's supposed to stop trusting women when one files a complaint against him at work because she wants his management position and he's still in it, you know? Or perhaps he should stop trusting women when one divorces him and takes half of his stuff and demands child support and alimony, and lives with a guy for 20 years without marrying him so she can continue to collect that alimony, you know? Like, when is it okay for, in women's mind, for a guy to be like, no, I don't trust women anymore? Like, what has to happen to him? Does he have to be murdered? Like, is it okay if Travis Alexander doesn't trust women anymore, or is he required in the afterlife to be like, oh no, women are all angels? You know, I gotta know, because, like, that's a big beef I have with women who are anti-feminists, who are like, well, men, you know, men's rights activists have a lot of points, but men going their own way, like, that's too far. They're like the reverse of feminists. You know, name one law that they've gotten passed. Name one law that men going their own way have gotten passed to discriminate against women on men's behalf. Because feminism has had a shitload, right? Shitload.
Oh, yeah.
and they're defending them. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Like, that's my little rant about, no MRAs in this group. No self-identified MRAs in this group. They probably think of Watson as an MRA. I can consider her MRA light because she doesn't get all the issues. She gets a lot. She doesn't get all the issues.
Yeah, no, she's pretty good. She's pretty spot on, but there are some things that I think she's a little misguided on, or just not really. Just hasn't really seen the forest for the trees, but and I think that happens a lot, because they like to lump, and I think why they weren't really flat out calling her an MRA is they don't need that title. They call her just a conservative, and it just kind of seems to encompass everything on the far right side of the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So they might as well have called her an MRA. They just didn't use that term, Well,
they use right wing to disparage us, which is hilarious because the men's rights movement, in general, if you look at the demographics of men's rights activism, I think conservatives are outnumbered by not necessarily progressives. There are progressives in the men's rights movement, which, all are making a mistake if you think the government's going to solve men's problems, because all of men's problems are caused by the government. But there's progressives in the men's rights movement. There's liberals outnumber everybody else. There are libertarians. There's a few, we're peppered with a few ANCAPs. And I've even met MRA communists. So, seriously, we are a diverse population. We are a diverse population in the true meaning of diversity, in which we aren't just all in intellectual lockstep. We know what the problems are. We have different ideas about potential solutions. I still say I'm still all for the founding of the great nation of Ancapistan. Fight me. But you know what? If it works, it works. So if we go along and change custody law, like personally, I'd like to get rid of the family court system. Ancapistan again, but if we have a family court system and we have to work with it, then any laws related to it shouldn't discriminate against anybody.
Exactly.
I'll work with people that want to change the law so they don't discriminate. And I've seen the same thing. Like, flat out communists will work within capitalism to solve men's issues because that is our primary goal. I don't think any other political group does that. There's infighting among the right wing, even to the degree of you have, establishment right-wingers right now versus populist right-wingers that are, and it's very contentious. They're like at each other's throats. They're about trying to kill each other. And they're undermining each other's ability to overthrow. I guess progressives will do that. Like, they will swallow their ethics and work with other, well, they don't really, like, the politicians don't have ethics like the public does, right? So I better but the politicians will swallow everything, like, as long as it gets them what they want. And the public will swallow their sense of ethics to get their politicians in power to do the things that they think is right. So I guess that's one similarity.
But enough about Kamala Harris.
Oh, God. Kamala Harridan.
Yeah.
So let's dig into this. It's got sort of a preview here, and then they introduce. It's got a teaser. So we'll watch the teaser, and then we'll watch the introduction, and I'll try to keep up with the bananas. And I think, I don't know, it doesn't go well when I try to play it at a different speed in SciTube, so I'm just going to keep it at the same speed and just watch the timer. But just jump in and interrupt it if you see or hear something that you want to respond to. And I'll do the same thing, and I'll pause when you start talking. So
Okay.
all right. So here we go. And 3, 2, 1.
Is it sexism when we have no barriers today? So we can pick what we want to pick.
Who doesn't have barriers?
Women don't have barriers?
Women, yeah. What's
We have
stopping
no
you? You can do
barriers.
whatever you want.
I can or you can?
What's stopping you?
So that part's going to come up again, but I have to say that I love that because we have one woman who is recognizing the difference between being female and having other issues that might constitute barriers, and how the two things are not related to each other. And the other one doesn't want to recognize that.
Yeah. She's a good one. She's a gem.
Yeah. So here we go. We can fast forward there. There we go. All right. They're still introing the makeup.
Talk about some of the biggest issues dividing women across the country. In other words, we're here to talk about feminism. First, I just want to say we know we can't represent everybody's views, but we did try our best to bring together a diverse group of women today.
Well, that's a good excuse for not inviting any female MRAs, right?
Yeah. Just not diverse enough.
Not diverse enough. Yep.
Today's world, is feminism dead? I saw your hand.
I think that depends on the definition of feminism. I strongly think that feminism is more of an action than an identity. I would say it's uplifting all women, in which case it's very alive. At the same time, if we do follow that definition, feminism has splintered off into so many different areas that you can look at people like Sheryl Sandberg who say you should just get another nanny if you feel oppressed.
Ooh. There's a bit of a, you look at the grin. That was an attempt at a type of cleverness, like the idea that women are not oppressed because we're women is about our gender, and they're going to do this throughout the whole thing. I noticed they're doing this throughout the whole thing. Having a disability is not gendered. Mm-hmm. Having poverty is not gendered. Being a color, having a skin color, right? Not gendered. Having a religious belief, not gendered. Like, all of these things are not gendered. So, you remember when we talked before about the progressive stack in a number of shows where we've said the way that feminism affects the progressive stack is that whatever a non-gender demographic experiences, feminism says women are bigger victims of it. So they are a step further into victimhood. Whether you say that puts below or above, if victim is at the bottom and oppressor is at the top, then women are a step down from men in every area. And if victim is at the top and oppressor is at the bottom, then women are a step up from men in every area. And it's interesting because that means that you can end up with a woman who has privilege based on every other demographic that she fits, being considered a victim, and more of a victim than, say, a man who is in a demographic that has some genuine claim to victimhood, like being poor because somebody did something to cause him to be poor from the outside. You know, like maybe somebody divorced him and took all of his income, and now he's poor. Homeless guy that owes child support, right? He's a victim.
Yeah.
But the woman that he owes it to, because she's a woman, they both have the same demographic. Maybe her income is even higher than his. She can be considered a victim, and he's not. Because why?
She's the woman.
Yeah, got a pussy, therefore must be a victim.
Exactly. It's really empowering. Gosh, I feel so good about myself now.
We do have a super chat I should read out because it's pertinent to the video. Thomas Lacrosse, I hope I said that right. LaCroix.
Yeah.
And I think this is Canadian money, not California money. Gave us $10 Canadian. That's a horrible joke. And said, just so you know, Sydney said that they heavily edited the conversation because they needed to cut hours of pointless bickering. In a room full of women?
Wait, you mean
I'm shocked. Also, some suspicious cuts right in the middle of Sydney's points. Yeah, that's yeah.
Man, you mean they put their makeup down long enough to have arguments?
I love that they included the cut of that one woman putting her makeup on. That was just so funny. Like, you wait until you're in front of the camera to do that. You did it for effect. Exactly. I'm sorry, because like I'm sure that they all had a green room of some sort, like probably not a television green room. They had some sort of a green room before they did this.
Of course.
And that's another reason why they wouldn't have invited like someone like me to talk, because like I wouldn't have showed up with makeup on. I'm allergic to it.
Yeah, so, I don't do the makeup thing. It's not my thing.
Yeah, but you can, like, if they ask you to be on TV and they're like, well, you got to wear makeup because you're on TV, you can, right? I'm like, I would have to send them to the spirit store or something to get something that my face wouldn't react to.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty bad. Look like I'm on there to advertise for, a band or something. But
yeah, the crap that they put on your face, especially when you're gonna be on camera, it's so much heavier than like regular makeup that you get in a cosmetic store or whatever.
It's actually called pancake makeup.
Yeah. Oh God. Like, it makes me gag thinking about it, because I don't like having stuff on my face either. My skin does react too, so and plus I'm always like rubbing my eyes and so anything I put on my face is just going to be smudged off anyway. So what's the point, right? So.
But I mean, like, that's one of the things I've noticed, that people don't want to put you on camera if you can't cooperate with their aesthetic. That's something that I have noticed, and I've noticed that in my history. So you guys probably won't see me even if I get my ugly teeth fixed. You guys won't see me invited on any talk shows anyway. You'll see some of the other honey badgers that they can like present. I'm not presentable, so there you go. You just have to watch my YouTube channel, my ancient dying YouTube channel, or this one. But yeah, like that's why that stuck with me though, because I'm like, I can remember before it was really bad, before it hit me, like with hives and stuff, that when I did try to wear makeup, I didn't put it on where other people could see me putting it on. Like, I would go off to a restroom or something, and because it seems, I don't know, it's a look at me doing this thing kind of behavior. I'm wrong. I don't know why other women do that. But it does seem like primping in public seems like a privilege thing, or
it's a performative thing. So it's like, women, how women dress for other women. You know what I mean? The same thing with I'm making sure that I look good. Bitch, you better check your eyebrows.
Yeah. Yeah, Shaman King says, dying implies that your YouTube video was ever alive, Hannah. Well, I've got one brag for my YouTube channel. I have one video that has over 250,000 views. And it trended on Reddit's Our Videos subreddit. And immediately afterward, like, my video trended, and Shuan had a video that trended that was about statistics on domestic violence and how men experience domestic violence in way larger numbers than people were realizing. Like, she got our numbers out there that the men's rights movement has been trying to get people to look at. She got our numbers out there on a level that we'd been unable to do for years. And my video on consent and her video on abused men trended on the main page, the main subreddit page, the front page, and like immediately afterward, our videos banned political videos.
Oh, shit.
Seriously, like the next week you could not post political videos to our videos. They made a new subreddit to relegate political videos to this other subreddit, so they could like hide us in the corner where, you know, like, no, we don't want people to know about these things.
Well,
yep.
It's
So
bigger
yeah.
what an ego. It's bigger. The conversation is bigger than you, Reddit. You can't just shove us into the corner, okay? I'm sorry. We're gonna eke out and find other places to gather and ruin your fucking lives potentially with our stochastic terroristic messages of equality for men.
Our insane misogynistic truth telling.
Yeah.
Forget baby. Nobody puts mama in a corner.
Right.
But yeah, like I look at this, listen to what this woman's saying about feminism being dead, and or not being dead, and you know, she starts out with this. It depends on how you define it, right? So the dictionary definition isn't the definition of feminism now. And whenever somebody posts it to us, like I need to go into Capwing and make a clip of that just to shove it in people's face when they well, feminism is this.
Really?
Because then they can tell me she's not a real feminist. Like, well, she looks pretty real. Like, she's sitting there, you can see her face, she's got, you know, you can see her clothing, she's got clothing, like I bet the other women in the room could probably reach out and tap her on the shoulder. She probably would have filed a sexual harassment claim for that. But yeah, I think that's pretty real. And so her definition of feminism is an action.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing I've got to say about that is so is taking a shit.
Exactly. It's just like that that viral video that I don't know if you saw it, but it's the queer person who said, "Oh well, queerness is about activism, and you have if you're not wearing a mask, then you're not really queer." It's like, what? If you have a different kind of sexuality, that means that you automatically have to then be some kind of gung-ho activist for whatever cause you think that someone is supposed to champion in your favor. I don't understand that. I just want it to be gay. Like I just want it to be gay. I didn't want to have to.
Yeah, no. You guys can go. Yeah, that whoever said that can fuck right the hell off.
Yeah.
You know, sideways. But I honestly I don't really care. I'm not gonna call myself queer. I am weird, but I don't think I'm perverse. No. I like my everything. I try to make everything I do, even when I'm angry, even when I'm reading someone the riot act, right? Try to make everything I do about human rights activism, about humanity, about loving your neighbor, even if it's got to be tough love sometimes. Mm-hmm. When I'm rough on people, that's tough love. But I wouldn't want somebody to self-harm or to be excluded from society because of a difference of opinion. And these people that make these kind of statements, if you're not doing this, if you're not doing that, that's not about loving and bringing people together and human rights activism and trying to make a community with people who are intellectually and psychologically diverse, right? That's not doing that. That is trying to control everyone in your community to make them suit your sensibilities. That's not love. There's nothing loving in doing that.
No. That's authoritarian dictatorship. Like, do as I say, not as I do.
Right. And it's predatory.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that whole thing, that whole rant about feminism right there, and we're going to hear each of them say what they think of feminism. I think feminism is alive and poisonous. I think that feminist organizations are integrated with the government in my nation, right here in the United States. If the National Organization for Women wants something, then Congress gives it to them. And it's very hard to change that, to deny that. If you look at the various states, it is a hard as hell fight to get them to tell the National Organization for Women no. And if they can't do it alone, then you have 3 or 4 other big organizations coming in and backing them that are feminist organizations. On top of that, some of the biggest charitable organizations in the U.S. that are, I guess, philanthropic. I can't necessarily say charitable because there's not a whole lot that's charitable about trying to break up people's families. But feminism is very supported by like the Ford Foundation, the Carnegie Foundation, those places. Women's studies was created by grant money from those foundations. Like, that's how it got started. It started with one course at one university in Australia, and women from that organization came to the United States to sell the idea to the Carnegie Foundation and the Ford Foundation, and they succeeded, and then they started creating curricula in various universities in the U.S., and it just spread across the country like wildfire in a haystack. And that was it. We suddenly had indoctrination, feminist indoctrination in our universities, and we know the rest of the story from there is that women's studies sent tendrils out after people graduated with these women's studies degrees and then got involved in other things, so that psychology, the field of psychology, is infiltrated with women's studies ideology, women's studies curriculum, business management, everything to do with the human services end of business, right? Education, other areas of medicine, all of the soft sciences, some of the hard sciences, law enforcement, very, very infiltrated. In fact, it's infiltrated by law because the Violence Against Women Act funds that infiltration.
Exactly.
So this is how that works. And so feminism isn't dead. When people say feminism is dead because they know that their neighbor Julie does not identify as a feminist and thinks the idea that marriage is a trap is ridiculous, they're wrong. Because if a social worker ever gets called to visit Julie's house and investigate whether her children are in danger or not, that social worker is going to view her household, her family, her marriage, her children's experiences, how she does discipline, how she does child rearing, how she does reading to her kids at night, through a feminist lens. If every book in the house that they have, for instance, is either religious or adjacent to their religion, based on morals and ethics that are based on their religion, and they don't have maybe books that would confront their religion and stuff like that, and their children aren't being read things that the feminist movement would like them to be read, the social worker will judge that, because I've seen that happen. On the other end of it, you have I've seen a social worker come to a home where an allegation has been made against the parents, see books specifically about Wicca on the shelves, and the parents had been really worried that they were going to be judged on that. They got some approval based on that. Like, there shouldn't be either direction there. It's just books, right? It's not How to Serve Man. Like, if you know the story, there's not a recipe book on cannibalism, so it shouldn't matter. And if it is, you should at least be able to explain that it's a joke. Like, you could have the Satanic Bible, the Necronomicon, the Christian Bible, and 2 or 3 other holy books from other religions, and I don't know, god and goddess statues and everything in your house, and Child Protective Services shouldn't care.
Right.
But see, Wicca is a feminist religion. People don't think of it that way, but it is. It wasn't probably when it started, but it's definitely now. It's very hard, unless you're a solitary practitioner, very hard to keep feminism out of that religion. They like completely, the last time I was involved in anything with that was like, they forgot that the deities were twofold, right? So feminism is alive and well. But it's doing what it's doing is absolutely evil, and I don't think we'll see a whole lot of discussion about that. But I think Watson might have said something. So let's see what else this woman has to say about it.
And if we're talking about that kind of feminism, yeah, it's pretty dead.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the human race exists, feminism will never be dead. There's something that we're always going to have to strive and work towards. To make sure that there's equality. So feminism is not dead.
I don't know that it can.
There we have the feminism is equality. And what she said there is actually pretty profound. She's talking about this as if women can never not be victims. I don't know how to get rid of this stupid thing on the screen. Can we...
This swirly thing.
Yeah, I click on it, and it gives me a, I don't want to see this.
I don't know that you have an option.
Right? I can't click out of the abortion health information thing. Like, it won't get rid of it. And I'm afraid if I open the why am I seeing this thing... Like,
yeah, because even if you click it and X out the next screen, it doesn't go away.
You know what's funny? Okay, so if you open the thing that says, why am I seeing this? It goes to a page, and the text on the page says this. Information panel giving topical context. Note, in response to coronavirus disease 2019, COVID-19, you may see information panels with links to learn more about COVID-19 or COVID-19 vaccine info. This one's about abortion.
Why are they talking about abortion? Like, and this is a new one. I've never seen that before. Like,
I know.
Of course, you see the COVID one all the time, but this I've never seen before.
But yeah, like I keep Xing out of it. Nope, it won't go away. So I don't know.
Susan just wants us to make sure that we know what an abortion is.
Yeah.
You know, she just have to know.
Clicking on that and having it go to a thing on COVID-19 though just kind of implies that the jab might be unhealthy for the fetus. I don't think that YouTube intended that. That's probably not what YouTube meant to say. But it really doesn't play well to have it just go to that and not go to something about abortion. I guess, yeah. But yeah, what this woman said, I'm going to go back 5 seconds here.
Die. As long as there's power and oppression, there will be people fighting for equity.
No.
To make sure that there's equality.
See if I can get her... There we go.
You can look at people like Sheryl Sandberg who...
Is it...
Sandberg who say you should just get another nanny if you feel oppressed. And if we're talking about that kind of feminism, yeah, it's pretty...
Will never be dead. There's something that we're always going to have to strive and work towards.
It's just not going to let me have that one...
Make sure that there's equality.
Second.
So.
But she's like, as long as there's oppression, feminism will never be dead. So essentially... what she's saying there is, no matter what conditions we live under, no matter how society changes, no matter what improvements are made on behalf of women in society or for women or by women, no matter what strides we make, women will always be victims, and there will always be a need for a victim grift for women, feminism will always find a way.
Exactly. And not only that, but women are only victims. They are the only victims. Because if we're talking about, what she's saying is that if as long as oppression exists, there will be a need for feminism. Well, are you saying that men can't be oppressed? So what happens if no woman is ever oppressed, right? Do you still need feminism? There's still oppression happening. There's a whole bunch of men over here that are fucking oppressed.
Exactly.
But is feminism going to help them? I don't think so. And that's not your goal here at all. It's
Sorry,
so
guys.
disingenuous for her to even say that, because again, they don't care about equality if it involves anyone else but women, and women that look like me. That's it. That's all they want.
Sorry about that. I don't even know why I must have been choking on that woman's words. But yeah, you're right. And the worst thing about it is that, of course, as long as they have this perpetual attitude of oppression of women, you can't look at situations where things are bad for men.
Mm-hmm.
But the other end of it is this. There's this never-ending whine of, God, women are in trouble. You know, we got to do something about this. And you should feel bad about it, right? You should feel bad about the circumstances. And women should be upset about it, right? We're told that we should perpetually feel victimized, held back, undermined, disadvantaged, right? So we should be perpetually angry, perpetually afraid, perpetually resentful, perpetually at war. Well, what do people do when they have a partner that makes them feel that way?
Stick around for too long.
They get a divorce.
Right.
Right? So, dear feminism, dear feminists, I want a divorce. And I do want half your shit, because you got a lot.
Yeah.
Like, want some feminist alimony there? Like, guys can pay, vagina money. I'm seriously thinking maybe half of the National Organization for Women's annual budget can just be donated. I
want some reparations, yo.
Yeah. It's like I'm arguing emotional distress here. And I don't have to prove it, because you can just say emotional distress and that's all it takes.
Yep.
So, but yeah, here we go. Women are perpetual victims.
Feminism is not dead.
I don't know that it can die. As long as there's power and oppression, there will be people fighting for equity. And until that somehow goes away, feminism is alive and well.
I think feminism isn't actually about equality. It's about equality when it benefits us. I think feminism
I like that.
is really about women wanting special privileges and treatment at the expense of men.
That face. Oh my God. Look at that. She's like so mad. She does not like this.
No. She's not a fan.
Often. And I think it's alive and well, sadly.
I think feminism is also alive and well. There are different kinds of feminism, right? Like, that is obvious. And for me, as a womanist, as a Black feminist, right, as someone who's really thinking about human rights, dignity, right, equity.
So, a womanist and a feminist. So, those are two separate things now. Just so you know, a womanist and a feminist are two separate things.
Yeah.
As long as that need isn't met, we're still gonna keep fighting.
I'd say it's alive and well. I'd say that it's also very nuanced, and I think what it looks like is going to differ depending on where you are in the world. For me, I just see it as a lens, which isn't necessarily antagonistic or protagonistic.
All right, so one thing, I'm going to stop on her face if I can here.
Which isn't necessarily antagonistic.
Okay. These type of glasses I have not seen a set of this type of glasses on a non-feminist face.
No.
They were popular in the 60s.
Yeah.
For women, and the 40s and 50s maybe. But they're not problem glasses. It's a strange kind of... because the problem glasses are like the big clunky ones, right?
Yeah.
Which women who don't need them wear them, you know. But this...
they're like cat eyes.
Yeah, they're like cat eyes. And it's like... Most of the women that I've met that have these type of glasses also have a bunch of cats or decorate everything they own with cats. Right? But they have a particular not a particular flavor of political speech and political activism. And it is old lady-ish. I don't know how else, like, this is the woman who will hold up a sign that says, this is what a feminist looks like, and then get mad if you say that's exactly what I expected, without actually saying anything about her looks.
Exactly.
Like,
So
you know,
good.
that's...
I love that.
And I've run into, like, I had somebody suggest a couple of guests on the show one time with those glasses, and immediately, like, my I don't know how to put it, my nut dar, you know, like my crazy dar was up. And horn-rimmed is a good way to put it. They have horn-rimmed glasses because they have horn-rimmed social attitudes.
Yeah.
And I just, like, I don't know. You always watch out for this. Now, it's possible that there are people that have perfectly intelligent viewpoints that also wear these glasses. But most of the time, it seems like it's somebody who is trying to appear more intellectual or more intelligent than they really are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you wear big glasses because you want to look smart. I wear big glasses because the fucking frames are distracting, and I get headaches looking at them. We are not the same.
Right.
So, like, I just wanted to highlight that because there's always one.
Of course.
It's like a uniform.
Yeah, I'm majorly distracted by the spinning wheel. Like, it's like circling the chin.
Like, hey, here's this woman's chin. She has chins. Yeah, like double chins. I don't care about that as much. But yeah. So here we go.
Necessarily antagonistic or protagonistic. It's just a useful tool.
Similar to what Pearl just said, I find that a lot of feminist ideology and thought today feels more of like a supremacist movement rather than something that is supposed to be advancing the goals of equality. I don't think that we can really term what's going on as feminism because it looks so different to, I think,
feels
the
like they cut
earlier
something out there.
Feminist movement. So in that way, I would say it's taken its last breaths of life. It's dying.
Yeah, I definitely think...
Just for the record... People disagreeing with feminism doesn't mean it's dying. But she is right, it is a supremacist movement. And you know it's a supremacist movement by what the one lady said about as long as women... Basically, she was saying that as long as women feel oppressed, feminism will still be alive, right?
Yep.
But I really wonder what they cut out there. Because the next thing she said started with I. There was definitely a clippiness to it. Like, I having edited sound and dealt with that myself, cut out statements myself when I'm... I have to edit everything I write. I have to edit it down so that I don't sound like Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls. So, and every so often, a Mojo Jojo moment makes it through the writing editing process to the sound recording process. And then I listen to it and I'm like, oh my God, I said that same thing 3 times, 3 different ways. I'm cutting 2 of them out.
Yeah.
This is why my videos are not an hour long. Like, especially if I'm emphatic about something. And I think maybe they cut out something to do with, to support the first thing she said. She probably gave some examples.
Yeah, I would think so, because it's you don't want any kind of, actual evidence or real valid talking points slipping through the cracks over there. You can't air that. But it would be interesting if anybody in that room actually recorded the whole thing and has it available, because I would love to see what got cut. And, of course, we know Vice cuts things from everything they post. So
even Vice came to ICMI 2014, and we actually got a good reporter, and they butchered her work. The editors at Vice butchered her work, trying to make us look bad. She actually came back and apologized to us because of it, because she was trying to be even-handed. She was actually a real journalist. She was trying to do what journalists do. She was trying to find useful information and disseminate it to the public so that the public can make up their minds on that particular topic. Vice didn't want people to do that. No. So I'm hoping that she moved on to some other publisher, because I don't think she was ever going to be happy there, because they're going to do that to everything that she creates.
Yeah.
But yeah. So here we go. We have a response.
It's getting more and more radicalized, for sure. So it's definitely still alive.
I think I'll preface and say that I don't know so much about modern Western feminism, and there might be a lot of terms that I don't know, like political jargon and stuff. But I believe in the advancement of women, whoever considers themselves a woman.
I want you to take a look at the posture and the tension here. Like the fact that her neck muscles are all highly defined at this moment, right? This is not a woman who is relaxed.
No.
She is either experiencing stage fright, which is a distinct possibility, or she is angry at what Sydney Watson said.
I'd wager on angry. This chick looks like you couldn't pull a toothpick out of her butt with a tractor.
Right now, yeah. And I the reason that I'm going with angry is because of what she is saying. Those aren't medals. Hothead Studios. Those are flashy little metal discs. Like that, and they're probably aluminum or tin. But yeah, I don't know. I've seen a lot of this stuff in fashion, and there's no actual point to those things other than for them to move around when she moves. They jingle.
Yeah.
And stuff. Stuff like that is scratchy, so I don't usually wear it. I'm a wimp about scratchy clothes. But yeah, this is... She looks like if Sydney Watson was standing in front of her and she could get away with it, she would jump out of the chair and bite her.
Look at the daggers coming out of her eyes. She's so intense.
Yeah.
Jesus. Good Lord. Calm down, lady.
I think there's a deficiency in society. So it's deeply rooted that feminism has always existed. I think America's a little obsessed with themselves, and it's always feminism is rooted in America. And white women started it. And it's kind of offensive because for thousands of years, women have been dying for their rights, I think.
Brown women started it first, you white ladies.
Yeah. First of all, the term feminism is an English term. Right. And it was coined to mean femininity, not political activism. But in the mid 19th century, Fourier, God, I can't think of his first name. Charles Fourier started using it to discuss women's political activism based on women's issues. So, and that was in the United States, in a commune that was a collectivist society. Basically, it wasn't. I don't think they were communist. They might have been, but it was a collectivist society. I know, they're in a commune. Of course, they're communist. Well, not politically communist. Not like Marxist communism. But yeah, it's that started in America. Now, women being politically active goes throughout history, and women advocating on behalf of women's interests has a history, and gynocentrism goes on forever, right? Like gynocentrism goes back thousands of years. Women pushing against social standards that women created goes back thousands of years. She just wants to apply the term feminism retroactively to something that was never labeled as such and doesn't really fit what feminism as a political activist movement that started in the United States and spread around the world actually was. It doesn't fit that grift. So she's really disparaging women throughout history that actually had points to make, and trying to deal with growing pains as civilization changed and things became safer for everybody, and conditions that rules were made to guard women from stopped being prevalent. That those women had points, right? That they actually, things needed to change. And there were things that they could do without losing their ability to make families with their partners, their husbands, that maybe hadn't been able to do before. Feminists didn't do that. Feminists came along and excluded men from the ability to advance politically. And yeah, it's pretty different from what she's talking about. Xerox gives us $5 and says, well, the idea that the term would refer to femininity makes sense, since an ism means doctrine or theory, hence why the term is empty as it's been used. And that's another good point. Let's see here.
I think as a Black woman specifically, when you talk about feminism, yeah, the mainstream first thing you think about is a certain type of feminism that tends to exclude still, even today, even with intersectional feminism, exclude African American women, and it's always kind of done that, and also like, upper middle class white women.
African American women have been excluded from feminism?
I hate this argument. I really do. You know, there's this white feminism and there's Black feminism and I'm a Latina feminist. It's not a cloak. It's not a set of clothing that you can take on and off like a uniform, right? It's just feminism. Just because you have brown skin doesn't make it any less twisted in its thinking, right? But now, because like, again, it's this intersectionality thing. If you can find any kind of attribute on a person that, you know, you can describe, right? This is who I am. I'm a Black woman. I'm a fat Black woman. That's not a separate category of feminism because you're fat. Like, it blows my mind. I don't understand the logic. Well, that's because there is none.
Yeah.
But it's just ridiculous. This is my brand of feminism. Oh my God.
Well, and the thing is, there's some of the prominent feminism or feminists of the second wave were Black. Like that's not something that just disappeared after the second wave was over.
Exactly.
They still existed. They still were feminists. They were still prevalent and prominent and important to the movement and influential in the movement. So I like this idea that now we got to separate like into separate categories, and if we criticize feminism, well, you're criticizing that feminism, but this feminism is exempt because Black women.
Right.
Okay. Do you still believe in patriarchy theory? Do you blame all of the ills in the world on the condition of men being in charge? Because then you're still the same thing I'm criticizing. So.
Always kind of done that, and also like, upper middle class white women has predominantly been the face of what we quote unquote consider feminism.
I think feminism is attempting to say, okay, the first thing we agree on is that there are barriers and friction to what I need and what I want based on the fact that I'm a woman. What it ignores is that, and what privilege is that you may not have to think that being a woman and being a black woman and being a black woman who has a disability, for example, impacts you further.
So here's one of the things I'm gonna pick on really big. All right, disability isn't gendered.
Mm-mm.
In fact, the community I work with, I'm a direct support professional for intellectually disabled adults. Right, that community is men are disproportionately represented among intellectually disabled adults in comparison to women. Right, that's just a fact. And when you have a disability that happens from birth, like there's different things obviously that can cause it. One of them is genetics. One of them is different types of birth injuries. Those things don't just affect one thing normally. You will have an intellectual disability and physical disabilities.
Uh-huh.
And from my perspective, what I'm seeing as a caregiver, gender doesn't factor into whether or not those happen to you. Right? It doesn't factor in to whether on top of having an intellectual disability, you have a mobility disability, something that keeps you from being able to walk or makes it difficult, or makes it harder for you to speak. There are all kinds of things that happen, and it doesn't. If your skin color is not white, right? Having a gender doesn't make you lighter or darker, like more or less covered in melatonin-rich skin.
Right.
Like, that's not a thing. Your gender has absolutely nothing to do with any of those things. So what this woman is basically saying is, again, back to the progressive stack. Wherever your non-gendered demographic is in the progressive stack, she's claiming that female puts you one step closer to victimhood automatically. So you're woman or rather your demographic and woman.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I think they really mean when they say, even though they don't mean that they mean it this way, but when they talk about like black feminism, it's like adding feminism plus racism. You're adding other vectors of anger
yeah,
to be this focus, right? And then, but again, then it always comes back to, well, are you a woman? If you're not a woman, then you're not oppressed, and you're just fuck you, basically.
Yep. And what really gets me is, so you look at demographics that have historically been viewed as oppressed, or disadvantaged, because not all disadvantage is oppression, right? If you're born with a disability, that's not oppression. Like, Mother Nature doesn't have intentions.
Right.
Right. So, me almost suffocating to death at the age of just a little bit before 2 years old, that didn't mean somebody was oppressing me. In fact, an entire mechanism of human existence, human civilization, worked around me to try to prevent that from killing me. My dad used to drive ambulance when he was in college and high school, and he went down the country road to the hospital that we went to at like over 90 miles an hour, maybe up into the hundreds. And I, like, honestly, the first thing that happened was a cop pulled up behind us and was going to pull us over. I looked in the window, saw me, like, my face was blue, pointed at my dad, and then pointed straight ahead, went around and led us lights and sirens all the way through Lima, to the hospital through every intersection and everything. And it's funny because, like, for a long time, I had this idea that if you were about to go under a stoplight, there should be a siren that went, "Woot, woot, woo!" Because every time I would hear that, and then this light would go down, the road behind us. And they're like, "Oh, the sirens, or the lights in Lima make noises." It's like, no, that was the cop. And I have memories from this, right? I remember not being able to breathe, right? So, like, this is something that was such a profound experience that at 50 years old, I remember something that happened at an age where I was too young to form permanent memories, right? But it's not oppression. It was a disability. It's not an oppressive thing. And it didn't happen to me because I was a girl. In fact, asthma affects more boys than girls. More boys have asthma, and more boys have asthma that is bad enough to kill them. And my understanding is more boys die from asthma than girls. I don't know if more adult men die from asthma than women, but more boys die during asthma attacks than girls. And I think if you really examined that, obviously if more boys have asthma than girls, then that's going to affect the death rate, right? And if boys are more likely to have severe or profound asthma than girls are, that's also going to affect it. And that might have to do with sex-linked, inherited other disorders like different allergies and stuff like that. But it's unknown. But the other thing that happens is when a girl is in distress, all of society just jumps to action. Oh, we got to help this. When a boy is in distress, people tell him to suck it up and drive on. And you can't. There's a degree of being able to suck it up and drive on with asthma, but it can hit a point where there is nothing you can do without a drug. I had norepinephrine, which is like artificial adrenaline. It stimulates your adrenaline production. And I've had it enough times that I can describe to you exactly how it feels to have those shots. And I've had one directly to the heart. Horrible experience. They don't portray it accurately on TV, right? And that's all stuff that happens more to boys than to girls. So for this woman to come along and say, well, my disability is gendered. No, it's not. I've met people with her disability, or with what her disability looks like. Because I don't know, it may have been caused by a variety of things. This having no legs and having some limitations to your arms and stuff, that can be genetic, that can be inflicted during gestation, and so on. It's like there are things that can cause that, right? But I've met people with results similar to hers in their development. All of them have been male. I have not met a woman in her condition before. She's the first woman I've seen in that condition. So, like, it's not gendered. Because it can happen to both sexes.
Yeah.
But here we go.
Further, you have more barriers, you have more friction, you are less able to get what you want. You're undervalued in a way that's like, okay, well, that's life. That's what I mean by equity, and that we're able to, without friction, all get the same needs met.
Yeah.
Yep.
You feel you feel undervalued, do you? Wow, welcome to the fucking club, lady. Like, how privileged are you to sit there and complain because people don't value you the way you feel that you should be? I'm not valued enough. What the hell does that even mean?
Yeah, that one I don't get. I actually will make one correction. Not her situation, because she has no legs, right? But I had a school teacher who had polio when she was a kid. Her legs did not work at all. One of her arms had very limited movement. The other one was pretty normal. That's the one she wrote on the chalkboard with, and it's the one she operated the joystick for her disability van that she had. She had gone to school, gotten her teaching degree, and she was a school teacher in the system for longer than 30 years. I taught English Lit, and kept control of her classroom full of like 12, 13, 14-year-old kids. Like the most contentious ages to work with besides kindergarten.
Yes.
And never had problems where she couldn't handle the situation. She was in an electric wheelchair. I never saw her act incapable.
Yeah.
Like, she just did what she needed to do. If she couldn't do something, if something was on the floor and she couldn't pick it up, she would have one of the students do it. But it wasn't like a moment of, oh, poor me. It was a delegation of responsibility. Mm-hmm. You can do this, you're responsible for it. Okay. And that's fair. And the teacher's in charge. That's the way it works. And like all the students respected her very much, and many of us really liked her. Like for a lot of us, she was a favorite teacher. And there was a boy in my class who had muscular dystrophy. We lost him about halfway through the 7th grade. That just it wrecked us all emotionally. Like he was a very loved kid, and I think he viewed her as a mentor because of all of the the experiences that she had. She was married. I think she had kids. She really just lived a normal life. Like, people, think about this as something that keeps you from doing things. It doesn't keep you from doing things. It might change how you do them. Mm-hmm. And so when we were in things like gym class and going back and forth doing stuff in art class and everything, my classmate took that to heart, and he had been that way before, but it gave him an even greater incentive, right, to do this. He worked at making his disability nothing, right? Mm-hmm. He it didn't keep him from doing things. It changed the way he did things. So when we played dodgeball, he played dodgeball. We had rules that fit the situation. Like, you don't hit the inanimate object to get the kid with muscular dystrophy out. But you also can't bean him with the ball because nobody else has the kind of muscle flaccidity where they're going to like bruise in a dangerous fashion because you beaned them with the ball. So you can't do that to him. And he could hit the ball with his wheelchair, and that was how he would throw it at people. And he got people out. Because he could whip that thing around and like hit that ball fast enough that you didn't get a chance to dodge it.
That's
and
cool.
He was not the first person out, because again, he could whip around and you throw the ball at him, but you only hit the wheelchair. Well, he's not out if you hit the wheelchair because it's not him. It's just an inanimate object that's attached to him. And it was pretty cool getting to do that and getting to be part of that. Like he played kickball with us. He had all kinds of different things that he did, and he participated because he wanted to, and that was an example that you just couldn't get away from. And I was more determined in my athletics because of him and because of her. And it galls me to see that somebody who raised this woman from a little girl, because I suspect her condition is not something that just happened to her when she was an adult. I think the reason that she probably doesn't have prosthetics, the reason that she has the wheelchair instead of the prosthetics, is probably because her hips won't support a prosthetic. which if she was just an amputee, more likely than not, they would support a prosthetic. Unless there was some other damage that was done. Like if this happened in a car accident and maybe she didn't have thigh bones, which can happen after that. So, but in any case, it just, somebody did her wrong by encouraging her to think in a constant state of victimhood.
Yeah.
And see barriers as things to be upset about, but not things to navigate and get around and eliminate, tear down. Like, this is not allowed to exist. I'll figure something out. That's cruel. She's got almost a smugness about it.
Yeah, she seems like a miserable person. I mean, I'm sorry. The way you handle challenges in your life is really everything, because we all have bad shit that happens to us, right? Every single person. The only thing that matters is how you handle it. Do you learn from this situation? Is it gonna be all right if you just take a minute and, walk it off? Like, we all have to go through that. This person doesn't want to do that. She just wants everything perfect. She wants it all her way. And unless every single door is open for her, then it's not equality and she's being oppressed.
Yeah. And I gotta point out, like, you hear these women complain about these different additional things on top of femininity that they consider victimized, themselves victimized by, right? But if you look at assistance for people with disabilities, there is blanket, people with disabilities. This is for people with disabilities. And then there are things that are just for people with mobility disabilities. There are things that are just for people with intellectual disabilities. There are things that are just for disabled women. There's nothing out there that is just for men. Except hair dye. And it doesn't help with your disability. Like, that's it. There's no help that is just for men. There is only help that is just for women. Just for women in this circumstance. So just a point there to make. And if you look at assistance for people who are disadvantaged as a result of historical racial inequalities affecting their family, right? Because that's what scholarships and grants and affirmative action for people who are considered racially disadvantaged, that's what that's for. That's not for today. That's for 100 years ago, right? That's for the effects, the after effects of 100 years ago and 200 years ago. But there are those grants and those different types of funding, those services, everything. There are some that are sectioned off just for women. Just for women. And girls. But not men and boys. Right? That's men and boys are, they can rely on the for everybody, which prioritizes women and girls. So there you go.
Yeah, see, I disagree with that. I think life is easier if you're a girl. Actually,
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of
advantage.
benefits that men don't have. I'm not going to speak anything to race. I'm just talking about gender specifically. It's usually like an excuse. Like, honestly, I think as a girl, you have equal opportunity in the world. I think there's benefits. Like, for example, we have quotas for women in specific jobs that are given to us that aren't given to men. So yeah, I would say it's easier being a girl.
She's got a big point, and that's one of the things that I just mentioned. But let's see how they react, because like multiple people are talking at once now.
From a viewpoint over here, though, it seems there's a lot of pretty privilege in what you're saying, and that you're white and you present.
Do you think I'm pretty? Thank you.
I think that you present in a way that beauty standards have accepted.
Oh, she had to take it back. See, that's pretty bitchy. I will say that right now. Like, if you're going to accuse somebody of having pretty privilege and you can't admit that you think they're pretty, you've got problems. That's on you.
Yeah.
So they call me ugly on the internet all the time. They be roasting me daily. I swear to God.
I don't mean to say I think you're gorge. I just mean that there a certain value that we give to certain bodies.
I mean, let's.
Now she's backing it off to thin privilege, right?
Thin privilege and probably the ableist thing, right? Because that's where she's coming from.
But you notice what she didn't do? She didn't address the point about quotas.
Oh, of course not.
Not a word. Right? She addressed skin color and pretty privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Which I feel better about being called ugly all the time because this girl is pretty. Like, so if people are calling her ugly and roasting her, then maybe my teeth aren't so bad after all. like I don't know. Like, she's not ugly. Like, every lady up here, every single one of them has some degree of attractiveness. They're different flavors of attractive, I guess you could say. You know, different styles, different facial features and everything. But they all look nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, this blows my mind. She can't even give her that.
To why these quotas exist and why these what you're calling
because
privileges
we want
exist.
special treatment.
No, it's because there have historically and presently in most jobs been fewer women.
So she's pointed out the quotas exist because there are fewer women in these jobs, but the question is why?
Why? Of course, we won't ask that. It's just
yeah.
And because of sexism.
How is?
So that's her response because of sexism.
It's sexism when we have no barriers today, so we can
Who
pick
has
what
no
we want to
barriers?
pick.
It doesn't have barriers. Women don't have barriers.
Women, yeah. What's
We have
stopping
no
you? You can do
barriers.
whatever you want. What's
I
stopping
can
you?
or you can.
What's stopping you? As a woman.
As a woman.
As a woman.
See, that ignores a lot that I'm a woman with a disability. So there's a lot stopping me that you don't have to think about.
Well,
that's okay. The really sad thing there is, like, right there. I don't know what she does. She's probably got a job. You almost guarantee she's got a job.
a desk job.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but you almost can guarantee that she's got a job. And there's a variety of things that she actually can do. Right? But, so, like, I hope nobody has made her feel like she's useless. Because she's definitely got a brain. Like, she can think. She's definitely able to, she was able to get there. And, hell, a lot of people need mobility assistance to get to and from places. But our modern society has a lot of stuff set up to make that easy for people, even if they are in a mobility device, like she's in a wheelchair. There's walkers that actually mount around the person, and you almost sit on it, lean on it. My brother had a classmate that had almost a wraparound walker, so it was behind him, but he held on to it on the front and the sides. And so this idea that she can't, this can't thing bothers the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And again, what she experiences as a disabled woman isn't different in terms of how her body works and how it interacts with the environment around her and what changes might need to be made to her environment in order to facilitate her ability to move. Right? None of that is different for her than it is for a man.
Right.
With the same condition. So this, it drives me nuts that she's doing this, and she doesn't want her womanhood singled out as, does this affect you directly, just specifically your womanhood? Because she can't name anything about her sex that makes it harder.
I said before, I'm speaking about women. I'm not.
You're speaking for yourself.
You're speaking as an able-bodied
white woman.
I
that is white.
Represents white. Of course, there's going to be other barriers if you're disabled. I'm sure. Like I'm talking about as a woman.
So you're just going to ignore
white
the
women
pay
have it
gap.
easier. Yes, I would agree.
What?
You're just going to ignore the pay gap, regulation over bodies.
The pay gap has been disproven and debunked
the pay gap doesn't
endlessly,
exist.
my friend.
We're getting into pay gap.
It's 2015 all over again, guys.
Oh my god! But now they're going to talk over each other because pay gap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh jeez.
It doesn't. It's the industries that women pick.
Let's talk about it.
There's a pay gap, but it's because women don't want to do the hardest industries.
I don't think it's that simple. I think that's an oversimplification. I think the fact of the matter is that women structure their lives differently to men. Men don't give birth. Men don't have to carry pregnancies. Men don't have to be the primary caregiver most of the time. Women also don't hold jobs for as long as men do. They often will stop and start. They'll go back into work. They'll take time off. They'll take part-time jobs.
And this will do the banana thing here.
The way that men work and women work are astronomically different, and to try to say that they're comparable is where this issue comes from. They're not comparable.
Two things. First of all, let's dig into why they think that they should take these jobs, which is societal sexism, and then...
So immediately she just dismisses the idea that women might become mothers because we want to be mothers, and that we might act as a primary caregiver for our children because we want to take care of our children, that we might take on other familial responsibilities because we want to be there for our family members, and just assumes that women who do these things, and this always comes from women who look like they just stepped out of a CEO's office, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or just the management, the manager's office at a grocery store. Not the woman who has made these choices, but the woman who looks down on these choices as beneath her or not for her because she has something else she wants to do. Well, my perspective is XYZ, therefore any other woman who does something different must have been forced into it.
Yeah.
Right?
No way she could have come up with that one on her own, right? No. It's someone else making up that woman's mind for her.
Right? And, like, I got everybody telling me in the chat, this is a trans woman. I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter.
It really doesn't matter.
Because I have heard this from cis women. I've never heard this from a cis woman who chose to be a mother because she wanted to, and chose to raise a family because she wanted to, and is happy about being a grandmother, and is happily married, 25 years after their wedding date. Like, no, it's always some divorcee, or like I said, the CEO type that didn't do these things. And then they turn around and they resent it, or women who don't know how to say no. Like, you look at my history, my parents both had disabling conditions in their old age. My dad had 3 heart attacks that were almost deadly before he passed away. His heart was not in prime condition. And there's a genetic irregular heartbeat, an arrhythmia, on that side of the family that we didn't really know about. My dad had it, I have it. I've since learned that some other family members have had it, some other vascular things. Like, I'm just a cornucopia of medical problems, right? But he lost 75% of his heart function in the first heart attack.
Jesus.
And he had to learn to walk all over again. And, it wasn't everybody else making me go spend time with my parents and spend money on my parents and try to help clean up their house and, arrange a room so that my dad could have a bedroom downstairs instead of upstairs. There wasn't somebody that came along and was like, Hannah, you have to do this. I wanted to take care of my dad.
Yeah.
Like, that's my dad. I don't understand how somebody could not get that. And my mom went through all the chronic pain conditions that she went through when she had to schedule surgery on her back. My mom had bone fusions in her neck, in her lower back, and in between her shoulder blades. In a 10-year span, she had 7 different back surgeries so that she wouldn't become completely disabled, right? And I would take off work and go stay with her in the hospital. Like, I wouldn't go home. I would sleep in her hospital room and just be there. And people would be like, why is your family making you do this? They're not.
Right.
That is not how things work. Right. Like, if I don't want to do something, I don't do it. And so it really bugs me when women talk about women's life choices as if they are inflicted by some outside force. Society's patriarchy beam comes down and hits you, and even though you really wanted to be the CEO of some company and spend 20 hours a day in the office and not have any life outside the office, like your business is your baby and your coworkers are your family, right? Even though that's what you wanted, somehow, without any choices made by you, without any decisions on your part at all, you ended up a mommy with 3 kids and a husband and a dog and a cat and a picket fence and 2 cars and a mortgage. How did that ever happen?
Right.
Like, you just blinked and then 20 years later you're in a marriage. Like, what? Wow.
How did I get here?
This is not my beautiful husband. This is not my beautiful house. Oh, jeez, oh, Pete. And it just like, no, it's like the knock-up fairy. The knock-up fairy hit you with her magic dildo, and all of a sudden you're pregnant. Like, boom! Where did this baby come from? Oh, it's definitely that goddamn knock-up fairy.
Yeah.
Like, no! You did that! You made a decision! You made a whole bunch of decisions! But, yeah, nope, it's all patriarchy's fault.
Yeah.
And it's discrimination if your employer doesn't pay you on the job to do your laundry at home.
Right.
Sigh.
Also, actually, Department of Labor, all statistics, at least speaking in the U.S., have found that when compared for the same jobs, there still is a pay gap, particularly when it pertains to race.
Because 60% of women have never asked for a raise. So how can you complain about your pay if you don't ask?
Why are they not asking?
Wait, what happens when...
And they all go off.
Uh-huh.
They're not going to deny that, are they?
No, of course not. Now that statistic, that is one that I've never heard before. So I'd be curious to know where she heard that from. But it sounds about right. Maybe it sounds feasible. 60% of women that don't ask for raises.
This sounds like a woman we should talk to. I don't know her name.
That's Just Pearly Things is her handle.
Just
but
Pearly Things.
Yeah, Pearl Davis. She has an H in front of her name, so I think she might have like a different first given name, but she goes by Pearl Davis.
Okay. That would be my mom did that. Her middle name was something that she didn't really, or her first name was something that she didn't really like, so she went by her middle name, and her middle name was a very pretty name, and so she went by that, and she would put her first initial in her signature when she had to.
Yeah. I was well into my 20s when I found out that most of my aunts all go by their middle names. I've been calling them what I thought was their first name, but it's all their fucking middle names.
Yeah.
Like, who are you people? I don't even know you.
I've had family members that did that outside my mom. I've had other family members that did that, and then my dad's side of the family, half of them called him by his middle name because his first name was a hereditary name. I'm just typing this so I don't forget it, because I have a mind like a steel sieve right now. So there we go. All right, and Zirank says he's brought her up to me before. He gave us $5 and says, I brought her up to you before. She's your namesake. So the H is Hannah.
Hannah. Okay.
That's cool. I never met very many Hannahs when I was a kid, right? And in fact, you go places and they always have like the rack of bicycle license plates or mugs or keychains and whatever necklaces that have their names on them and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I was in high school before I started commonly seeing my name represented. My brother's name started being represented a little earlier than that. But both of us, my parents got our names from the Bible. Although my dad named me, like, they were going to name me a different Bible name. And the first time he saw me, he was like, oh, that's a Hannah. So apparently I was born looking like a Hannah. And okay. So that's why my name is Hannah. But it'll be interesting. I'll see if I can reach out to her. Because that is an interesting statistic. I have heard it before, and I have seen it in research. And it is true. It is true that women generally don't go in and ask for raises. They don't negotiate.
Yeah.
Right. Men will negotiate, and they'll even negotiate in jobs with standard pay scales.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen that happen when I've worked in retail for a corporate entity with retail outlets that like most people would not think of as anything prestigious or unique, right? And get pay raises by negotiating based on things like performance. Mm-hmm. Women don't necessarily do that. Like, you should be able to walk into your human resources office or your boss's office and say, everybody got a raise of this much money this year, but my sales numbers are 50% higher than everybody else. Like, the next person down from me is 50% lower, right? So I think I deserve an additional compensation because I am earning more for the company. Men do that. Mm-hmm. Even when you would not expect it to work. And the worst thing that can happen is they say, no, we're not. We don't do that. We're not going to do it. And it doesn't break a guy if he tries and it doesn't work. He might go somewhere else. He might pick another job. He might move, right? But he's not going to go home and cry because he didn't get the raise. Yeah. Women won't ask because they're afraid somebody's going to tell them no. And if they do ask and somebody tells them no, they'll continue working in that position for that less amount of money.
Yeah. Women expect to get raises based on a different type of performance, if you know what I mean.
They don't have to perform. They just have to have the equipment.
Yeah.
Right. But, I've had raises. I've had merit raises. And I've had merit starting pay, too. I've come into a job with, I wouldn't necessarily say expertise, but experience, and broad experience. Not broad as in I'm a chick, but broad as in I've worked in a variety of examples of that type of job when I was in retail. I had one manager say, "Why do you want this job? You're overqualified for it." And my answer essentially was, part of it is the scheduling. I just moved down here to Dayton. I don't have the networking that I have to do my profession anymore. And I'm not going to try to build that again at my age. But I have a kid in school, and I need to be able to work part-time around his schedule, and this job has offered that. And she hired me, but she gave me merit pay because I had a broad range of experiences in other retail environments, and also in food service, and also in customer service. outside of the retail environment. And so she decided that my skill level merited additional pay. She was like, "Don't tell your coworkers." Like, I'm not going to tell any of my coworkers that, but thank you, you know.
Right.
And that was when, like, a lot of men will go in and negotiate based on those things. Well, I'm looking for this job for these reasons, but if you can pay me more, because I have worked in all of these environments and this is what I'm bringing to the table. Women will walk in and fill out the application, and if the employer pays X amount per hour normally for that position, they won't think they can get more.
Mm-hmm. They don't know how to value themselves.
Right. And it's like the woman on the far left was talking about not being valued.
Mm-hmm.
But who's devaluing her?
Exactly. She's doing it to herself. Like, it's the thing that kills me about all of this, about all of these people and their fucking attitudes. Not all of them, but, you know, I just don't understand this need to be accepted and approved of by everyone else around you.
No.
I just don't care what anybody else thinks about me. I know what I am, you know, and I'm not going to let someone else determine that for me.
Yeah.
You know, and these people, again, some of them just, they it's right there on display. They do not possess that ability. They just cannot trust that they know themselves better than anyone else. You know, they don't believe in themselves. This woman in the wheelchair, she has been so scarred by her life experience that she carries it around with her like a weight on her shoulders. You know, and it's just it deteriorates any kind of positive experience that she could have because she's going into every situation with this defeatist mindset.
Yeah. And it hurts to see somebody do that. Live like that, because there's one of the things that has kept me alive all my life was being a stubborn ass. Right? I refuse to be defeated by something as stupid as pollen or cat dander or makeup or any of the other 5,000 things I'm allergic to. And it's I got that. I was like that from birth. I can't say that I wasn't. But I got that fed. My whole life, my parents have fed that. My brother fed that. My teachers fed that. To the degree that when I was in junior high school, if I did start to wimp out in gym class, my junior high school gym teacher was a football coach. He was on the team. He wasn't the head coach, but he was used to dealing with football players, you know, doing 2-a-days in August and stuff. So he would say to me, "It's okay, Hannah. We know that you have asthma. You can sit this one out if you want to." Right? And I would be like, "Gosh darn, I'm gonna do this. You can't stop me." You know? And that was like my immediately, like, I can run more. I might die in the middle of it, but I'm not gonna stop. Like, that was it, man. And it was me being a stubborn ass. It wasn't. It's not necessarily an admirable characteristic so much as it is a useful one, right? But that's served me my whole life. And I've met other people that were like that. And there's a sensation of winning that happens when you feel like you're going to die right now. And you still, you work your way over that hill, and you get to the other side of it, and you didn't die, and you accomplish the thing that you were going to accomplish, and you can sort of sit back and recover from overdoing it, and enjoy the effect of, I did the thing. Even if it's just, I'm not going to walk during the cross-country race. I'm going to jog, and I'm going to stumble jog, but I'm not going to slow down to a walk. Right? Even if you come in last, but you didn't walk, just that. There's a satisfaction with that. It's very similar to solving a puzzle in a game, or making your first sale in a retail establishment is a success.
Mm-hmm.
And being in the victim mindset and looking at barriers as insurmountable rather than puzzles that you need to solve in order to get around them denies people opportunities to have that sensation of success.
Yes.
That's unfair. And nobody should teach anybody to think that way. Right?
No.
You shouldn't teach people to think like they can't do stuff. You should teach people to think like, all right, I'm going to place a value on this task. I might put other things in front of it. But the barriers to this task are nothing but puzzles, and I'm going to figure it out. Mm-hmm. Right? Or I'm going to ask for help to figure it out. But I'm gonna find a way to do what I want to do and live the way I want to live, not poor me.
Yeah.
It's a horrible room to be stuck in, a horrible little padded room to be stuck in if poor me is your personality.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I know like a lot of people would look at this and be like, you're talking about a woman with no legs, right? But
and
she's in the studio, isn't she? She got there. Right? So that's a barrier. Like, how did she get there? That's a barrier. There's a barrier between her being at home and her being in that studio.
Mm-hmm.
She overcame some barriers.
Damn sure did.
Right? I love to be the person that helps somebody overcome those barriers. But I would not ever want to be the person that tells somebody that they can't.
Mm-hmm.
So, in any case, going on to the here, them all talking over each other.
When women ask for raises. I've been wanting to say something, but I want to be respectful of, I don't want to interrupt people, and I want to let them finish their thoughts.
Jump in,
but
go
it's
through the wall.
It is
I like
a very
her.
privileged label, right, to be able to say that you're feminist, right? And I say that because I come from a working class background of Dominican immigrant parents. My mother would not necessarily identify as a feminist. I look to my mother, and I do think of her.
Okay, we're getting a banana there, and I think something was cut out there because the I was too close to the feminist. Mm. But I wonder what she said in there.
Think of her as a feminist. A lot of my ideas and my empowerment comes from seeing her survive and put food on the table. When I'm thinking about feminism, I'm always thinking about who's not part of the conversation. What are the barriers? How do we think about equity? How do we think about self-empowerment and agency and having a voice, right?
So there we go. Sound off.
Who's not part of this conversation? I mean, I'm looking at the elephant. He's right there in the room. I just don't know if anyone else can see it.
Yeah, that's a big one. What did we say at the beginning of this? Who was left out of this? Who did they listed feminists, trans women, and anti-feminists.
Mm-hmm.
Who did they not list?
We don't need those men.
No men's rights activists. And it's not like there aren't women in the men's rights movement. They could have they still could have had an all-female panel and had men's issues represented, but they chose not to.
Right.
Right.
So, and the only person on that panel that is technically a man has absolved himself of those duties and now has applied the label of woman and is sitting up there espousing these feminist bullshit ideas. So there you go. If there any kind of representation of a man is anywhere, that's their clear intent. That's the length that they will go to represent a man.
Yeah.
And they weren't even trying to do that.
It's really kind of pathetic, wimpy, in fact, to limit the conversation that way. Yeah. Robin Thrush says there are 3 trans women in the conversation. I I believe you.
Too.
I only could tell with one, and it wasn't the one that I was informed was trans. So, but see, I have a broad family and friend group that includes women who have been mistaken for trans women, who are they were born female, raised female. They're biologically, genetically, everything female, but with a strong jaw and broad shoulders and fairly muscular in their jobs and everything. And it's pretty hard to pick out like secondary sex characteristics other than boobs to tell you the difference. And you can have small boobs. You can have almost non-existent boobs and still be a woman. So it's, the host is the one that I knew about because I saw some people debating her ethics. I will say that in regard to certain issues. Yeah, I do not know enough about the debate and the allegations to comment on them, so I am not going to state on the show what they were, because I think it's bullshit to just spread rumors like that. But there were people who were mad about this woman being the host, this trans woman being the host, because they believed things about her that I couldn't even confirm. I really just couldn't even confirm that they were that the story, that the allegations had been made at any point in time outside of like, hey, this person has these allegations. Like, I couldn't confirm that was real. So, let's see, the woman on the far left side of the second row. Yes, that's Tom. That's
Eli, whatever the.
No, the far left side of the second row is Sydney Watson.
Yeah. Left. I'm
yeah, she does have some She does TikTok. I thought she was smarter than to let malware on her computer like that. But we will do one more segment here, and then we're gonna call it because it's 9:30.
And having choice and thinking about our basic human rights, education, access to health, homes, like having bread, having food.
Whoa. Before we go on with homes, our basic human right now, right? Now that there are more homeless women than there were before because of the tolerance for drug addiction and the inability to exercise tough love and getting people off the street and into rehabilitation programs and mental health programs, right, that are living in tent cities, right? So, and all of the homelessness that has come out of the illegal immigration situation. But homes are a basic human right. Why don't we tell that to the 75% of homeless who are men and the 95% of unsheltered homeless who are men? Because most women who are homeless are couch surfers or they live in shelters. Yeah. So they're not without a safe place. They're without a home of their own that they pay for or own. Just a point.
Food and those things are very important, right? And they're at the crux, right, of what a lot of us here know that we need. It's like there are the barriers, right, that we constantly ignore that are very much systemic and microaggressive, right? We see them and experience them every.
She's just like spouting buzzwords.
Yeah, that's all.
Like none of that is actually connected. Is she gonna say any complete thoughts?
No, of course not. Of course not. I'm laughing because you know how Spanish women or Spanish people in general, they speak very fast.
Yeah.
That's how she's talking, like, and she's just the fucking buzzword salad. It's just
yes, she just
spewing
rattled
all
off a
over the
buzzword
floor.
salad. I like
Yeah.
she named things that there are issues around: class issues, economic issues, racial issues, gender issues, but didn't give any details on any of those things. And then she started using buzzwords, microaggressions as a buzzword, and there is nothing micro about anything to do with homelessness. It is a big deal. Like that's just what the fuck.
Like what in the U.S.?
So,
Like what?
What would you like to know an example of? So be
I know you said that there's like barriers. I want to know what barriers in the U.S. today as a woman.
Well, as a woman or as a woman of color? Let's be specific.
As a woman, I said
and we
as
don't.
Okay, that's it. I'm calling it. That's the end. They keep doing that, as a woman or as a woman of color. Because, like, I'm sorry, but you're covering for your lack of barriers as a woman by bringing in your race. And I actually want to know what racial barriers you have now. Because, like, we have everything arranged in society to try to eliminate any potential barriers around race. So if those things aren't working, we should stop them. And if something else would work instead, end what's not working and move on to the new way of handling it. But don't just tell me that race is a barrier without any evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, complete thoughts are a microaggression. I like that. Let's see. So I think I've read the super chats all as we got them. I don't think that I missed any super chats, but I am gonna just sort of scroll back and look and see. Okay, so I did miss one. Senior Sticks gave us $5 and says, Hannah, if the woman with no legs says it's gendered, it must be true, right? So I think that's the only one that I missed. And then I don't think I didn't have any Rumble rants. So let's minimize these. Minimize. There we go. And okay, and I have a message, but I still have to look at this. Okay, I have a super chow that I'm not going to read out, but Sizzling donated $5, and thank you, Sizzling. This is something that is not necessarily for the show. So I will read it further and respond to it personally, because it's just for... it looks like it's just for me to read and respond to. And then a previous one, Meredith G gave us $5 and said, thanks for the interesting conversation. And that is our super chows. So, I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts on this before I call the show? And we will continue with this next week. I'm probably going to go back and redo just this little segment that we just listened to, just so we can respond to it some more next week. But do you have any final thoughts on what we've talked about so far?
No, I think I'm going to save it for next week because, I mean, I think for the first part of it, we kind of identified the major players, right? And there's a couple of more that are going to come in, and we'll get to chime off on what they have to say. But yeah, no, I'm just in disgust that these people like this. It saddens me. It's not that they disgust me. It really saddens me that there's so many people walking around with this victim mentality. They can't get out of their own way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And everyone else is the problem, you know? It's just so divisive and not helpful to anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like watching the bicycle, stick in the wheel bicycle meme happen.
Mm-hmm.
And wanting to grab the stick and you can't because you're nowhere near. and they're going to accuse you of misogyny if you grab the stick.
Exactly.
I'm going to grab the stick anyway. Like, fuck you guys, you can't have that stick anymore. You're hurting yourself with it. But yeah. So with that, I will thank all the listeners for listening to this spicy sausage. Thanks, Lauren, for sticking out this video with me. We didn't even get 10 minutes in. We are at, let's see, where are we here?
9:24.
9:24. Yeah. I was gonna try to get to 10 minutes, but God.
It's just dripping with...
We haven't even gotten to the point that I saw on Twitter that Sydney Watson had highlighted it and somebody retweeted it, and so I saw it twice before I responded to it. But we'll have to deal with that next week, where she made a statement about how how we get talked over. Those of us that are anti-feminists get talked over, and the reaction was just, you couldn't have asked for a better example. So that's your teaser for next week. And again, thanks to everybody who works in the background to make HBR Talk happen. And good night, all.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.